Langford just hit for the cycle, and he's looked pretty darn good since returning from the IL. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today, and welcome to July. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, we will recap the weekend. We've got waiver wire ads, the drop-o-meter, starter sit decisions, and much more. Let's jump in.
Can you believe it? Wow!
All right, Chris, you are up first. Player of the weekend.
Player of the weekend is Zac Gallen, who returned from the hamstring injury. And look, it was a nice soft landing, right? Oakland Athletics, one of the best matchups you could hope for. And he pitched really well. 7 strikeouts. I think it was 1 earned run over 6 innings of work. Really, really nice performance from Zac Gallen. But the most important and interesting thing about this performance from Zac Gallen is that his fastball velocity was up, and not just up. It was higher than it's ever been at the major league level. Zac Gallen averages 95.2 miles per hour with his fastball in this start. That is the highest it's ever been in a start. He had a couple at 95.1, but he broke that barrier, and I don't quite know what to make of that, because maybe it was just, hey, he needed some rest, right? He was off for a couple of weeks. Maybe his mechanics were not great. Maybe, we talked about how many innings he threw last season. Maybe that hamstring injury was kind of a blessing in disguise, in that it might make it more likely for Gallen to pitch at a high level the rest of the way. But it's also like, I don't know, maybe alarm bells go off a little bit with a guy who's had some elbow issues in the past, comes back after a long layoff, doesn't do a rehab start, velocity's way up. I don't know. I think it's mostly like 95% a very, very positive thing. But I want to get your guys' thoughts, because I just wrote about it and I was tossing it around in my head what to do with Zac Gallen's performance here.
Well, I have him as one of the big risers of the weekend. Mm-hmm. Considering he was basically a must-start pitcher in fantasy, really high-end option, ace, I think, by most people's interpretation, with a couple miles per hour less on his fastball. I mean, this was exciting, and he didn't offer a lot of specifics about changes he made, but the quote he gave after the game was he felt like things. To read the exact quote, felt like the things I've been working on delivery-wise had kind of clicked. And he did talk about how the last time he was on the IL, he mostly just focused on his recovery from injury and not being prepared to pitch necessarily when he came off the IL.
And that would have been when he was dealing with the forearm back in 2022,
I believe,
right?
So. I believe that's what he was referencing. And so he just wanted, he wanted to feel like he would come back raring to go, and he certainly looked like it in this one. His next opponent is the Dodgers, so that's going to be a tougher test than the A's to see if this newfound velocity holds, if he's just as dominant. I'm thinking you're probably starting him. I mean, Zac Gallen is somebody who most of us, like I said, would have considered must start even before this velocity jump. But that is a tough matchup, obviously.
Zac Gallen only 46% started on CBS, which I think makes sense because he was activated midweek. We didn't necessarily know that he was going to return this weekend. So now that he's back and he's looked really good against Oakland, I know it's a tough matchup, but velocity being up, and overall he's been really consistent this year. 3 earned runs or fewer in 11 of 12 starts. I think you're good to go ahead and get Zac Gallen back in your lineups this week. Scott, over to you. Player of the weekend.
My player of the weekend is Manny Machado. The biggest game he had this weekend came on Saturday. He went 2 for 5 with 2 home runs. For the month of June, now that it's closed, I can give you the full numbers. They're pretty impressive. 333 with 5 home runs for the month. And I saw this, and I'm writing about it in the Weekend Stock Watch. A lot of hitters who had struggled for the first 2 months suddenly came around in June. I'm kind of using Manny Machado to symbolize all of them, because Manny Machado, he did have the elbow surgery prior to the season, and so you could have blamed that on his slow start. But if you looked at the actual StatCast data, whether you're talking how hard he hit the ball, how much he was striking out, which you don't even necessarily count on StatCast for, but those underlying numbers that usually denote a change in skill, they were pretty much unchanged from the Manny Machado we always knew. So I remained hopeful that he would eventually come around. And then he has this big month of June, and I'll go ahead and get into this, I guess, because I looked into the numbers league wide of how things have changed. So obviously, as we talked about, April and May, just awful for offense. If you compare April and May of 2024 to April and May of 2022, which was also a bad year for offense, even worse in April. You look at BABIP, you look at home run to fly ball rate, it was even worse in 2024 than in 2022 for those 2 months. And June started out much the same way. But from June 15th on, the league-wide BABIP is 294, and the league-wide home run to fly ball rate is 12.6%, which looks an awful lot like June 2023. It's actually better than June 2022, the other bad year for hitting. So I'm not comparing. The first 2 months of June still count, and so I'm kind of being unfair here, comparing June 15th to June 30th for 2024 versus the full month of June for 2023 and 2022. But the point is, the environment for offense appears to have normalized over the last 2 weeks, and I think you see it reflected in the numbers for some of these hitters, Manny Machado included. The home run to fly ball rate is just spiking for so many players.
Yeah, which is great because, as you mentioned, we've been starved for offense for most of the season. Now, that does have a ripple effect on the other side, because now we're starting to see a lot of pitcher regression as well. But we were expecting that for a lot of the season, constantly coming on here. Lots of pitchers that we're talking about can't keep getting away with this, and it seems like a lot of those pitchers are starting to not get away with it anymore. Player of the weekend for me is going to be Wyatt Langford, who hit for the cycle on Sunday Night Baseball. He finished 4 for 5 with his 4th home run. He added 3 runs and 4 RBI since returning on May 28th. 29 games total since coming back. A 299 batting average, 3 homers, 12 runs, 24 RBI, 6 steals, lots of fly balls to the pull side. Not hitting the ball as hard on average as we would like, 88.2 miles per hour during this stretch. We still want more power overall, but Chris, I think we have to be pretty excited about what we're seeing from Wyatt Langford. It looks like he's finally starting to figure it out after a really slow start.
Yeah, like the average exit velocity, like that's important, but it's not everything, right? Because hitting a 99 mile an hour ground ball is obviously not the same as hitting a 97 mile an hour line drive. You'd rather the latter than the former, even though it has a lower exit velocity. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Wyatt Langford, like the underlying numbers don't necessarily back up how good he's been in June. That's one thing to keep in mind. 308 expected WOBA, 343 actual WOBA before Sunday Night Baseball. So there's a pretty big gap there. But he's hitting the ball in the air more consistently. The strikeout rate, I believe, is pretty significantly down from April, if I'm doing the math correct. Yeah, it was 17% entering Sunday night. It's going to be even lower than that. I think all in all, it's a positive. I don't think you look at Wyatt Langford and say, yeah, he's now a superstar. I'm not there with him yet, because there are big enough issues in the underlying data to suggest that what we've seen so far in June is not quite real. But it's worth betting on, I think, at least if you have him on your team. I was never at the point where I was dropping Wyatt Langford. I never thought that made sense given what you paid for him, given what we know the upside can be if he started to figure it out. I'm not viewing this as a sell high opportunity. I still want to keep riding it out with Wyatt Langford.
I will say, and he did have a good month of June. So, I am encouraged by the overall direction Wyatt Langford is headed. the way he came about this cycle was not aesthetically pleasing. I guess I'll put it that way. The triple was a fly ball to left field that was almost caught and then got stuck under the wall. The double was a ground ball to second base that happened to be a long enough run for both the center fielder and the right fielder that he was able to make it to second base. And then the single was an infield single. So,
wheels, baby, wheels.
The balls were hit with high exit velocities, but they were ground balls. They were ground balls, the single and the double. And I don't know. I watched the highlights expecting to be wowed, and I was like, wow, I did say wow, but like, wow, he was lucky to get a cycle out of that.
Yeah. The home run, for what it's worth, 107.4 exit velocity. So he did crush that one, 404 feet to left field. Last thing I'll point out, with the average exit velocity being around that 88 mile per hour, if you pull the ball and you put it in the air, the average exit velocity, while it matters, we've seen from guys like Isaac Paredes, like you can kind of get away with not hitting the ball as hard as long as you are pulling it in the air. So I think that's part of what is happening with Wyatt Langford and why he's picked things up quite a bit since returning in late May. Quick reminder to sign up for the FBT newsletter if you haven't already. If you're watching on YouTube, you can scan the QR code that will take you right to the website where you click on the FBT logo, you punch in your email address, and it's easy as that. You will get a FBT newsletter delivered right to your email inbox every weekday for free. Let's take our first break, and when we return, we will talk about the news and notes right after this.
We need your sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
Welcome back in the news and notes, and the biggest news from the weekend came out early on Friday. The Nationals are promoting their top prospect, James Wood, to make his debut on Monday. We did an emergency podcast, so make sure to check that out. Chris, you were not on that podcast. Any quick notes or anything you'd like to add on James Wood being promoted?
Yeah, I understand that it's been a very, very tough season for rookie hitters especially, and I'm sure this is all what you guys talked about on Friday, but I did want to add a little color to it. I went and checked out Scott White's preseason top 100 prospects, valuable resource. I looked at there have been 14 players from that list who have had at least 100 plate appearances this season. 5 of them have a weighted runs created plus of 100 or better. Only 5 of the 14 have been above average hitters. And that includes like Willie Abreu, who doesn't really face lefties, and Michael Busch and Colton Cowser, who have really slowed down, and I think you could argue how useful they've been for fantasy for much of the season. So your expectation for James Wood should be that he is not an impact fantasy player right away. On the other hand, your expectation for, I don't know, who are some other outfielders we're adding on waiver? Okay, Jared Kelenic. I think the floor is probably higher with Jared Kelenic. The ceiling's higher with James Wood. I'm not sure Heston Kjerstad or Yonkeski Noel are going to be impact players either. And those are all young guys who are relatively exciting. The other outfielders you're likely adding on waivers are even less exciting. So that's all to say that, yes, given the way it's gone for Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter and Jackson Chourio and all the rest of them, our expectations, especially for next year's draft, maybe let's not draft these guys as top 100 picks. Maybe let's cool it on that. But in terms of waiver wire, it still makes a lot of sense to aggressively chase the high upside, top end prospects, because if they hit, the high end is so much higher than anyone else you're going to be able to add on waivers in the vast majority of leagues on July 1st.
And I believe James Wood was right around 65% rostered when we did that emergency podcast.
He's 85 now.
He's all the way up to 85. So that's good. People are listening. They're taking the shot, the lottery ticket, whatever you want to call it. Big upside, big downside. But yes, if he's available in any of the shallowest leagues out there, change that. Make sure you get James Wood on your team. Juan Soto was scratched from the lineup Saturday due to a right hand contusion he suffered on a slide on Friday. X-rays came back negative. He was originally out of the lineup on Sunday, set for an MRI and the CT scan to come on Monday. And then he was a surprise addition to the lineup on Sunday. So we'll see how he bounces back from this. But the fact that he played, I haven't heard anything bad come out. I
hit 2 balls over 106.
Yeah. So hopefully Juan Soto's all right. I think he is. As we feared, both Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber were placed on the IL on Friday. Harper with a left hamstring strain, Schwarber with a mild left groin strain, and Cody Clemens has been filling in at first base. Johan Rojas was recalled to play in the outfield. Mike Trout said on Saturday that he's basically pain-free and expects to be reinstated from the IL by the end of July. Manager Ron Washington said Trout is close to resuming baseball activities. 3 more players were hit on the hand and or wrist this weekend. Corey Seager was hit on Saturday. He was out of the lineup Sunday. He went for further evaluation. Vlad Jr. was hit on his right hand on Sunday. X-rays came back negative. And Mitch Garver was also hit on the wrist on Sunday. X-rays came back negative. We'll see if these guys are in the lineups on Monday or Tuesday. There's only 3 games on Monday, so pretty small slate there.
Do you have Vlad Guerrero's performance from the weekend in here? Because he was another one like Manny Machado who really picked up the pace.
I mean, I hadn't realized he was pretty awesome in May too. Like I don't
wasn't
know.
homering.
Yeah, the power wasn't there, but he had a 916 OPS in May. But then the power really showed up in June and kind of looks like, I mean, he's not quite up to his expected numbers, but 370 WOBA, 392 expected WOBA. It's a lot smaller than the gap we've seen in previous years.
He's closed the gap, 7 home runs in June. Oh, I'm sorry, 8 home runs in June, including 6 in his last 9 games. And for the month, he did improve both his fly ball and pull rate, not to an extreme degree, but they were both up, and he more than doubled his home run to fly ball rate from previous seasons. I think part of that has to do with the improving offensive environment, but part of it's better spray angle for damage. And he delivered on it, and he did the damage. And, you know, I dropped Vladimir Guerrero behind Josh Naylor a couple weeks ago on my rest of season rankings because I thought 2 years and 2 months was enough time to sniff out an aberration as far as the StatCast data goes, but apparently not, because he's about caught up to the StatCast data now.
It's all in the hair, man. You cut the hair, no problem. Vlad Jr., he's been on fire.
Take that, Delilah.
On CBS this week in points leagues, 52.5 fantasy points for Vlad Jr. Just a massive week for him. Mike Trout, already said that about Mike Trout. Jordan Romano was shut down from throwing after experiencing discomfort in his right elbow on Friday. It's the second time he's been shut down since going on the IL on June 1st. Obviously, does not sound good. Chad Green is the top option for saves right now in the Blue Jays bullpen. Jared Jones will re-enter the Pirates rotation Wednesday against the Cardinals. He was skipped this past week as a way to limit his innings. Are you guys good with Jared Jones getting him back in the lineup?
Yeah, good matchup.
Yep. Michael Harris has not yet been cleared to begin a running program. He's 2 weeks removed from suffering a grade 2 left hamstring strain. Blake Snell will make his final rehab start at AAA on Wednesday and is expected to rejoin the Giants rotation after that. Justin Verlander resumed playing catch from 60 feet Sunday and felt good. He's been out since early June with neck soreness. Tyro Estrada was placed in the IL with a left wrist sprain. Gavin Williams was reinstated from the IL on Sunday and will make his season debut Wednesday against the White Sox. Tristan McKenzie was optioned back to AAA, and Gavin Williams is 69% rostered. Rehab, overall his rehab wasn't great. The last 2 starts were much better than some of the earlier ones. Do you guys think Gavin Williams is a must-add at 69%?
Yes, I do. I'd rather add him than Christian Scott, who is also supposed to be back this week.
Interesting.
And, the little bit we've seen from Williams in the majors was more impressive than Scott. Well, I say little bit, but we've seen more of Williams in the majors too.
It was a weird year for Gavin Williams, I thought. Like the 3.29 ERA was great, but K rate was pretty mediocre, only 8.9 per nine. It's not terrible, but it's not great. And then 4.1
better
walks
than
per
Scott.
nine. I don't know. Like Reese Olson is 68% rostered. Scott is 49. Gavin Williams is 69. I don't know who I would prefer out of that crew. I think Olson probably has the highest floor, but I think Scott and Williams both have higher upside. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's close. I think I would take Williams, but what were you going to say, Scott?
I like Olson too.
Yeah.
I think Scott would be third of that three for me, but it's a tough call between the top two. And I'm not opposed to adding Scott. I have some bids on him set to go through tonight in some leagues, but I'm just saying, in addition to him being kind of underwhelming with the strikeouts in his first stint in the majors, this is Christian Scott I'm talking about, we haven't gotten confirmation he's back in the Mets rotation yet. We know.
Yeah, we're assuming they have a TBD on Wednesday.
Tyler McGill got sent down. They also have Jose Budo, who they could call up. I'll go ahead and get into this because my sleeper pitcher recommendations from Friday kind of changed because of this. So my understanding is that with Scott joining the rotation, presumably, and Jose Budo potentially joining the rotation after that there's talk that David Peterson could get sent down after he makes his Monday start, follow Tyler McGill to the minors. They're kind of trying to maximize roster space to keep them well stocked with relievers this week. And so there's talk that maybe David Peterson could be sent down after he starts Monday. Jose Budo and Tyler and Christian Scott could both come up. So I'm not sure any Mets pitcher is making 2 starts, even though they're one of the few teams playing 7 games. And I had recommended David Peterson and reluctantly recommended David Peterson and who was the other one? Sean Manaea. And I'm not going to do that anymore because I'm not confident either is making 2 starts. But even if Scott comes up as expected, because those 2 were sent down, Tyler McGill and David Peterson, presumably, as more of a roster maximizing situation, I don't feel confident Scott's going to be back in the rotation to stay. So that's part of the thinking too, why I'm less eager to add Scott than Gavin Williams or Reese Olson for that matter.
Pirates GM Ben Sherrington said Sunday that David Bednar is making progress on his left oblique strain, but that Bednar doesn't appear to have a concrete timeline. Max Muncy took swings off a tee, fielded ground balls, and did some throwing Friday. He's not expected to return from that grade 1 right oblique strain until after the All-Star break. Josh Young will visit a specialist Monday to evaluate his surgically repaired right wrist, and he continues to suffer these setbacks. It doesn't sound good for Josh Young as of now. Yu Darvish has resumed playing light catch. He's now dealing with right elbow inflammation. Before, it was a groin injury. That's the reason why he was on the IL. Tommy Edman recently sprained his ankle, but was able to field grounders again on Friday without any problems. Manager Oliver Marmol said Edman is on track to begin a rehab assignment sometime next week, and Edman is 54% rostered. Do you think he's a must-add?
No.
I wouldn't say must-add.
I think he's pretty fringy in points.
Yeah, probably needs to be added in Roto.
Yeah.
And I know he's out there in some of mine. Yeah, I mean, particularly if you can stash him in an IL spot, it's worth picking him up in those formats.
Joey Ortiz has missed 3 straight due to neck soreness. The Mets option Tyler McGill, which we just spoke about. Jeimer Candelario returns to the lineup Sunday after missing 4 straight with hamstring tendonitis. Garrett Mitchell will be activated by the Brewers on Monday. Tyler Black was optioned back to AAA, and Mitchell does have an intriguing skill set. 47 career games in the majors, a 278 batting average, 5 homers, 9 steals, 94th percentile sprint speed last year. Garrett Mitchell, 16% rostered. Any interest in 5 outfielder leagues? Garrett Mitchell.
Some, though I'm not sure how much he's going to play because the Brewers were preparing Sal Frelick to play some infield this spring in
Mhm.
anticipation of Garrett Mitchell being on the roster. But since then, of course, Bryce Terang has had a breakout season at second, and Joey Ortiz has kind of entrenched himself at third. And I'm not sure Frelick's prepared to play infield right now anyway. So it would either mean benching Frelick for Garrett Mitchell or playing Christian Yelich at DH a lot. And I'm just not sure how it's going to shake out.
Fair enough. Again, that was Garrett Mitchell. Clark Schmidt has resumed his throwing program. He's been out with a right lat strain and isn't expected back until after the All-Star break. And last but not least, Wilmer Flores was placed in the IL with right knee tendonitis. Let's talk waiver wire pitchers. First up, we've got some names in shallower leagues. Brandon Pfaadt had a great start up against Oakland. 6 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. He is 77% rostered at the Padres this week. Reese Olson, who we mentioned, was very good once again at the Angels. 6 innings, 2 runs, 9 strikeouts. He had 15 whiffs on 98 pitches. He's 68% rostered at the Reds this week. And Tobias Myers turned in a quality start up against the Cubs. 6 innings, 3 runs, 6 strikeouts. And in 5 June starts, Myers had a 1.55 ERA, a .89 whip. He is 67% rostered, but at Colorado this week. So do not love that. Chris, how would you rank Myers, Olson, and Brandon Pfaadt?
Yeah, I know it was a good start for Myers here, and congratulations if you started him in the 2-start week, but you can go ahead and drop him in all leagues. I mean, I guess not NL only, but at Colorado this week, you're definitely not starting him. I don't think he's particularly good. He's a clear third on this list. I would go Olson and then Pfaadt. I don't know if Pfaadt's ever going to do it, right? Like, he had 8 strikeouts in this one. You go back 3 starts before this, he had 8 strikeouts. So you can see the upside. In between those 2 starts, he had 2 combined strikeouts with 6 walks over 2 starts. So I think Brandon Pfaadt is just a streamer. I think he can be useful, but I don't think he's someone it needs to be rostered forever. Whereas Reese Olson, I think, has both a relatively high floor, and I think if he can get himself into more 2-strike counts and start putting guys away with the slider and changeup, there is strikeout upside here because he has 2 40% whiff rate pitches. It's just getting into the situations where he can put guys away more consistently. So I think Reese Olson is the clear favorite for me.
It's a great 3-start stretch for him.
Yep.
All 3 quality starts and more than a strikeout per inning, 20 strikeouts in 18 of the third innings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with the order there. With Myers, I can see why, if I'm trying to explain the success he's had, I think the thing that stands out most to me is, okay, he puts the ball in the air a lot, but that's a double-edged sword. And if you're an unproven, not a big strikeout guy who allows a lot of fly balls heading into the stretch of the season where offense is picking up. Yeah, I'm not optimistic about how it's going to end for Tobias Myers. So I agree. He's a distant third on this list.
Waiver wire pitchers part 2. Lance Lynn pitched very well up against the Reds. 6 shutout innings, 6 strikeouts, had 17 whiffs on 79 pitches. Andrew Heaney had a great start on Sunday Night Baseball at the Orioles. 7 innings, 2 runs, 10 strikeouts with 19 whiffs on 93 pitches. Drew Thorpe turned in a quality start up against the Rockies. 6 innings, 2 runs, 4 strikeouts there. And Alec Marsh pitched very well up against the Guardians. 6 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts. Scott, do you have any interest in this group? Marsh, Thorpe, Heaney, and Lance Lynn.
I mean, the best I can say for this list is that I think I like them all more than Tobias Myers. But I don't have a great deal of enthusiasm for them. I will say Andrew Heaney, for the month of June, it ended up being really impressive numbers. 6 June starts, 3.41 ERA, 1.11 whip, 10.2 K per 9. And I believe his swinging strike rate was around 14% for the month. And I give the full June starts there. It was 3 really good starts and 3 not so good starts for Andrew Heaney. So still not a lot of consistency with the performance, but he does keep coming back with these big strikeout efforts that make me wonder if he's kind of recaptured something from a couple years ago. when he did have a great year for the Dodgers, remember? And
there is one specific thing.
What's that?
His slider velocity was up more than 2 miles per hour in this
2.4.
start. And that was, in 2022, the good year with the Dodgers, his slider velocity was career high 83.4 miles per hour. So that's one thing to watch. I don't know, if it's necessarily something that I think will turn Andrew Heaney into a must-start pitcher or anything, but that pitch did look more like what it did in his best season.
Mm-hmm.
How much is he rostered now? Because I didn't see him out there in the leagues where I might consider adding him.
Only 22%, yeah.
Yeah, so he
that feels low.
Yeah.
If he's out there in some 15, 16 team leagues, he's probably worth adding there. But I don't think I'd go as far as the 12 teamers yet.
Waiver wire pitchers, part 3. Albert Suarez pitched well up against the Rangers. 6 shutout innings with 2 strikeouts. Colin Ray pitched well against the Cubs. 5 1/3, 2 runs. Had 8 strikeouts, 15 whiffs on 97 pitches. And Frankie Montas, a strong start at the Cardinals. 6 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts. Had 17 whiffs on 98 pitches. Chris, some random big whiff performances here. Do any of these matter? Frankie Montas, Colin Ray, and Albert Suarez.
Only one of them, and it's because these are all clearly just streamers. Albert Suarez gets the Mariners this week at Safeco.
Yep.
That's awesome. Colin Ray at Coors Field. Frankie Montas at Yankee Stadium. No, thank you.
Revenge game.
Sure. He did make 3 starts for the Yankees?
Yeah, that didn't work out very well.
Yeah, I don't think we count that one as a revenge game.
Is he taking revenge on his own shoulder?
I think you have to throw 30 innings minimum for it to count as a revenge game. And I don't think he got there. Oh, he 41 innings.
Take that
as a member of the Yankees. Revenge.
I was encouraged to see this from Albert Suarez because I was about ready to write him off after his previous 2 starts. The only reason I was holding on was because that Mariner start coming up. And then he does against the Rangers. I noticed he leaned on his fastball a lot more, and his cutter, he used it a lot less. Now, his cutter has been the most hittable pitch. It's also been the best whiff pitch. And we saw him strike out only 2 in his 6 innings in this one. So it's kind of a trade-off there. But he's trying things. Albert Suarez is trying things to get back on track, and he seemed to get back on track. And with the Orioles backing him, he remains kind of interesting.
To be fair, Scott, I don't think it matters what he throws when he faces the Mariners because that team will just strike out on 50 pitches. So, yeah, I think it's a really good matchup this week for Albert Suarez. 2 names in deeper leagues. Landon Knack of the Dodgers pitched well against the Giants. 4 2/3, 1 run, had 7 strikeouts. And Carson Spires, who pitches for the Reds. He was at the Cardinals. 6 innings, 2 runs, 1 of those earned with 4 strikeouts. He's turned in back-to-back quality starts. Overall, the numbers look pretty good. He doesn't get a lot of strikeouts at all, but his quality of contact has been all right so far. In deeper leagues, were you looking at either of these 2, Landon Knack or Carson Spires?
Knack more than Spires just because he's got the Dodgers. And that's the most interesting thing about Spires. His minor league numbers were good too. He's obviously been pitching well and since joining the Reds rotation. I don't see a lot underneath the stats to really explain them. It's a whole is greater than the sum of the parts situation, and which makes me more distrustful of it. So I'm not looking to add Spires anywhere yet, but he has been surprisingly good.
All right, let's hit our final break, and when we return, we'll fire up the Drop-O-Meter here on Fantasy Baseball Today.
An unsub, a seasoned one, and he's leaving a calling card.
How do we find a ghost? I have a plan.
Let's fire up the Drop-O-Meter, 1 to 10. 1, you do not want to drop this player in any leagues. 10, you can drop this player in all leagues. Yusei Kikuchi has allowed 4+ earned runs in 5 of his past 7 starts. And this weekend, it was 5 innings, 4 runs, 7 strikeouts, Still had a good amount of whiffs, but overall, last 7 outings, a 7.12 ERA, a 1.68 whip. Home runs have been a problem during that stretch. He is down to 79% rostered. Chris, where is Kikuchi on the drop-o-meter?
Yeah. So I'm trying to see. Okay. Yeah. So what happened when I looked at him before the weekend was his change's been a really good pitch for him this season. And that's a new pitch for him. He continues to tinker. Everything else has taken a step back. And I don't know if those are related, right? Like there's not really any reason why you say Kikuchi throwing a different changeup grip should mess up his curveball or whatever. But I don't have a good explanation for it, but that's what's been happening. Obviously, he didn't turn things around here. I still think there's a decent amount of upside, but yeah, I think he's probably a 4 on the drop-o-meter. Certainly in points leagues, I think he's droppable.
Would you drop him for any of Gavin Williams, Reese Olson, Brendan Pfaadt?
That honestly might just depend on what the next matchup is for all of them. Probably not for Pfaadt. I don't think Pfaadt has the same upside as Kikuchi, but for Olson or Williams, I think it's reasonable to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a 3, low score, and it's not that different. But the one league I have you say Kikuchi in is a 12-team head-to-head points league, so fairly shallow. I did not give a thought to dropping him.
Okay. What about Nick Pivetta? He has struggled over his last 4 starts, and he faced the Padres this weekend. 4 innings, 5 runs, only had 5 swinging strikes on 73 pitches. Last 4 starts, a 6.98 ERA, a 1.81 whip, and he is still 86% rostered. Scott, where is Nick Pivetta on the drop-o-meter?
I mean, these two are kind of similar in a lot of ways. Chris and I argue about which one is better. So I'll go 3 on Pivetta also. Couple things about this start. Yeah, it's been bad lately. 4 yucky starts in a row of about 4 innings each. ERA's gone from 3.40 to 4.52. He was cruising through 4 innings in this latest one, and then he said his sweeper, his best pitch, abandoned him in the 5th. Of the 5 runs that were allowed to score, 3 were let in by relievers. So things kind of all fell apart in the 5th inning for Pivetta, at least in this particular start. I'll also point out that he still has 9.9 K per 9 rate and a 2.3 walk per 9 rate on the year, which are both very good. Way too many home runs. And, if you give up way too many home runs, there comes a point where it doesn't matter what you're doing with strikeouts and walks. But
why, that sounds like Nick Pivetta.
But he hasn't always had good strikeout and walk rates this high, this good. But yeah, I like that there's just one thing wrong as opposed to like everything's falling apart.
I do want to point out one thing with Nick Pivetta because it kind of dovetails with a couple of other trends. And one is, we do this just throw your best pitch more thing as if it's actually that easy to get major league hitters out. And Nick Pivetta is throwing his best pitch more, his sweeper. It's a good pitch still, but it's way less effective than it was in the smaller sample size of last season. He has thrown 213 of them already this season. He only threw 129 all last year. His whiff rate is down from 44% to 34%. Expected WOBA up from 175 to 242. The 2024 numbers are still really good, but they're not as dominant as they were. And it's kind of dragged the whole profile. Like the whole idea was like, oh, the sweeper, that's taking Nick Pivetta to another level. And it hasn't really worked out that way in, him using it as his number 2 pitch. And that's another larger trend, which is that what we've seen over the past couple of seasons is sweepers are becoming just less effective overall because batters as a population on the individual level, whatever you want to talk about, they get better the more time they see pitches. And so right now everybody's throwing splitters and it's really great. I'm going to guess we're going to have some kind of conversation in September of 2025 or April of 2026 about how the splitter revolution's over and some other pitch is going to be the new en vogue pitch because hitters are just going to adjust. And that's that's one of those things that you can't always just bet on spam your best pitch and having it work.
I hope everybody starts throwing a knuckleball next year.
That would be amazing.
I would love that. Nick Pivetta, by the way, this upcoming week, he's at the Marlins. So I would really try to not
I would start him, yes.
And I would, in fact, start him, especially in those points leagues where he is RP eligible. Spencer Schwellenbach, rough outing against the Pirates, 5 innings, 4 runs. It was overall not a great 2-start week for him. He's got a 5.68 ERA, a 129 whip. Where is Schwellenbach on the drop-o-meter?
I mean, probably like a 6, but I still like a lot of what's going on there.
I agree.
He entered with a 72% strike rate on the year, and it was a little lower on this one. It was 65, which is still good. But he walked a couple batters. That was a little uncharacteristic. 6 pitches. He varies the usage. Like his most used pitch in this latest start was the sinker, and I think he entered with it being his 6th most used pitch on the season. So he like mixes it around a lot, and I see this ending really well for Spencer Schwellenbach, but it's
is that in 2024 or 2025 is my question, right?
Right.
I hope he figures it out this year because I agree. I think there's a lot to like about the skill set, but I don't know if he puts all the pieces together this year. And he's still 21. He just turned 21, right? No, he's 24. Sorry.
Yeah, and it hardly had any time at Double-A even. Much.
Yeah, that he just moved really quickly. Yeah.
So this is one that I would drop for Brandon Pfaadt to answer your next question, Frank.
What about James Paxton? He kind of hit us with the fooled you because he got destroyed at the Giants. 4 innings, 12 hits, 9 runs allowed, still 89% rostered.
I mean, I wouldn't add, I don't know if like Landon Knack is better than him. So I guess that I can't say he's a 10 and they're on the same team. That's why I make the comparison. But yeah, I've been saying for 2 months that anyone marginally interesting, I'd be willing to drop James Paxton for. And there's another guy, Charlie Morton, who's in a similar spot where Charlie Morton's still 90% roster. James Paxton's right around that range. I don't know what we're doing. I know they're on good teams and have had decent results this year, but doesn't need to be that high. These are streamers. And I'm fine dropping Paxton for Olsen. I'm fine with dropping Paxton for Pfaadt. And the other guy that we mentioned in that group,
Tyler Anderson, rough
get him out of here.
2-start week, 9 2/3 innings, 9 runs allowed, more walks than strikeouts, 79% rostered. I assume he can go.
Well, here's the funny thing, because we've talked all year about how we don't believe in Tyler Anderson. I said I'm not going to believe in him, even if he has this going into September. But I did recommend him as a 2-start pitcher because his 2 starts were against the Tigers and Athletics. And I said, you don't want to get caught holding the bag when it all blows up. But if it happens this week with those 2 matchups, that's extraordinarily bad timing. We got extraordinarily bad timing on the blow up for Tyler Anderson, it turns out. And he just had his 2-start week, obviously. So, yeah, you can drop him anywhere you may have picked him up.
Let's talk waiver wire hitters. And which one of these corner infield? I guess that's kind of cheating because Heston Kjerstad, I believe, is still only util only. But
and Noel's outfield eligible on CBS, right?
What am I even talking about then? Which one of these prospects would you rather add if you want to add either one? Heston Kjerstad had a big game Saturday, 1-for-1 with a grand slam. He added 2 walks. He has started 5 of 7 games, including against a lefty on Sunday. I thought that was interesting. And John Kenzie Noel hit another home run on Saturday, 1-for-3 with his 2nd homer. He has started 3 of 5 games since being called up. Who do you like more between the 2?
I think Kjerstad, but I wasn't that motivated to add either, even in my deeper roto leagues. Playing time has to be more consistent. And I think Noel, didn't he have a 3 strikeout game this weekend, which is something I worry about with him. Kjerstad's looked better. I'm hopeful he starts to get more playing time for the Orioles, but it's going to come at the expense of somebody else we care about in fantasy. And so that means there's not a clear path for him.
Yeah, I think I only put in $2 bids for Noel and Kjerstad where I did.
if you need a catcher this week, Elias Diaz returned at the perfect time. He went 2 for 4 with a run scored on Sunday. He's batting over 300. He has an 801 OPS. He's 39% rostered. The Rockies have 7 games in Coors Field this week. Even check some of those 2-catcher leagues because he was available in one of my 15-team 2-catcher leagues. So, I was pretty aggressive in adding Elias Diaz there. Just check to see if he's available.
And the interesting thing, Diaz, I believe, played DH on Sunday, and Hunter Goodman started at catcher.
Yeah.
So that's Hunter Goodman's he's like a top 12 catcher over the past 3 weeks somehow. I think it's mostly because he just has 5 home runs, and there's like 3 catchers who have done anything in that time. But he's got hopefully 4 or 5 games of Coors Field this week. So I'm hanging on to him.
2 true outcomes player, that Hunter Goodman. It's either a home run or a strikeout.
Yep. But, at catcher, the bar is pretty low. So I do agree with Hunter Goodman in some of those 2-catcher leagues as well. Rank these corner infielders. You might need some help if you lost out on Bryce Harper. Andrew Vaughn just wrapped up a really nice June where he hit 337 with 6 homers, 20 RBI, and a 932 OPS. Jose Miranda's playing time has picked up recently. He's started 9 of his past 10 games, and overall he's hitting well. 297 batting average, 826 OPS. And Nate Lowe looks like he might be picking things up. Last 10 games, a 342 batting average, 2 homers, 8 RBI, 1 steal. Scott, how would you rank Vaughn, Miranda, Nate Lowe?
I will say Lowe, Vaughn, Miranda. Unless you need a third baseman, then obviously Miranda, because he's the only one that plays first base. There's not a huge gap between them. I'm giving Lowe the top spot mostly because he's an everyday player in the Rangers lineup, which I know has been a mid-tier offense this year, but there's the upside for it to get much better than that.
Zac Gallen has picked things up, and he went 3 for 4 with a steal on Friday. He went 1 for 2 with his 9th home run on Sunday. And in June, a 247 batting average, 6 homers, 4 steals, and 810 OPS. Zac Gallen is 53% rostered. Chris, would you add Geloff over any of the second basemen we've talked about recently? India, Hamilton, Joey Ortiz, Nick Gonzalez.
I think over Hamilton in a roto league makes some sense if you don't need steals as much, because Geloff's going to contribute some, but I think Hamilton's a really good source of steals. I just think he's going to be a better hitter overall than Hamilton, so that would be the one. Other than that, I think I would still prioritize India, Ortiz, and Gonzalez ahead of Geloff, especially in points leagues where I think Geloff is extremely fringy. I think he really only matters in a categories league context, but I think I might just like the other guys more.
Some names in deeper leagues. Jose Siri went 2 for 3 with a double dong on Friday, and last 29 games, 272 batting average, 8 homers, 20 runs, 17 RBI. It's been a pretty good stretch here for Jose Siri. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa went 2 for 4 with his 7th home run on Friday. He added 4 more hits on Saturday, and he hit top 2 in the lineup on both Saturday and Sunday. Hunter Renfroe has hit better for quite some time now. Last 29 games, that does have an IL stint mixed in there. Batting 300 with 5 homers, 15 runs, and 15 RBI. Michael Toglia of the Rockies, he's been doing some things. He hit a homer on Friday. He added 2 steals on Sunday. Again, the Rockies have 7 home games this week. Stuart Fairchild of the Reds, he's been playing and he's been running. He had a steal in each game this weekend. And Tyrone Taylor has hit for some power since taking over for Starling Marte, who was on the IL. Taylor has started 4 of the past 5 games, and he's hit 2 homers during that span. Scott, any of these names stand out in deeper leagues? Tyrone Taylor, Fairchild, Michael Toglia, Renfroe, IKF, and Jose Siri.
I always am putting together my own notes, talking points for the show ahead of time, anticipating who you're going to ask me about. And I did not anticipate a single one of these players. I did not anticipate talking about Stuart Fairchild today. That's for sure. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa probably matters in deeper leagues. He's not exciting, but he plays a lot.
I was stunned that he's 34% rostered. I write my waiver wire column on Sunday afternoon, and I do here's a guy to add for every position, plus a deep league target. And I was like, oh, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. That's a great one for the deeply target. He's 34% rostered.
Yeah.
Stunning.
Still pretty deep with that roster rate. But yeah, I could see it. I guess he's probably scored more fantasy points than we give him credit for with the low strikeout rate, and he's eligible at a lot of positions. So that might explain it. I think Mike Toglia could potentially be useful because he qualifies in the outfield. He plays half his games at Coors Field. I don't see him becoming a fantasy stud or anything, but
I don't mind streaming him this week with 7 games at Coors.
Right. Yeah. And Siri's playing more than I realized because I know that was an issue earlier in the season. Jose Siri, it's just the strikeouts are insane.
Yeah, pretty bad on the strikeout rate. But yeah, I think five outfielder leagues. Jose Siri does have some value. He's so good defensively that I think they need him in the lineup because of that. Starters sit these pitchers this upcoming week. We're assuming a standard 12-team league. And Garrett Cole picked up his first win Sunday at the Blue Jays. He looked much better. 5 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts. He had 12 whiffs on 90 pitches. And earlier in the week, I said, even if Garrett Cole has a good outing, we probably are not starting him this upcoming week. I don't know. Do we stand by that? Chris, what do you think? Garrett Cole is home against the Red Sox this week. They are pretty good against righties.
Yeah, I think he's a fine starter. Like, I didn't see anything in this start to think, all right, Garrett Cole's back. He's an ace. He's the best pitcher in baseball. That definitely wasn't that. His velocity was up from the previous start, but it was still down about a full mile per hour from last year. So I think he, in the near term, should probably be viewed as more like a streamer. The Red Sox are not a great matchup. So while I would lean start, it's certainly not a must start situation.
Max Scherzer was solid at the Orioles, 5 1/3, 2 runs, had 4 strikeouts, 10 whiffs on 77 pitches, and he is home against the Padres this week. They are second in WOBA against righties, so pretty tough matchup there. Scott, what do you think about Scherzer facing the Padres this week?
Yeah, kind of the same answer Chris gave for Cole, but maybe a little bit less even my enthusiasm for starting Scherzer. There are some leagues where you're obviously going to start Scherzer because the pitchers, the alternatives are really bad. But if you do have options, it would be my preference not to start him.
Might be your preference to not start Kevin Gausman either because, man, this is a rough stretch. 6 June starts, a 5.65 ERA, a 1.31 whip. And, well, the problem here is he's at the Mariners this week. So, Chris,
yeah, I kind of think I'd start him.
Yeah, I can't blame you for that. I mean, it's a good matchup.
Look,
out a lot.
I can't blame you if you sit him. I think where Gausman is, and I think Carlos Rodon's probably in a similar spot. I might have made this comp last time we spoke about Rodon, but I think both are likely to still have, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 really good starts the rest of the way. They got 16 starts left between them for each, probably something like that.
Yeah.
I think up to 8, maybe 9, 10 of those starts could be really good. But I think I'm done expecting Kevin Gausman to be a significantly above average pitcher. I think he's capable of it in any given start, but nothing I've seen from him this season suggests that it's what you should expect. Even in a start against Seattle, I'm probably starting him where I have him, but if he gets rocked, wouldn't surprise me.
Again, that was Kevin Gausman. It's weird to have Cole Reagans on this list because he's obviously an ace. He's a top 10 starting pitcher. He had a rough start this weekend. The problem, he's in Coors Field this week, Scott. Is Cole Reagans still just a must start regardless?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. As bad as Coors Field is, this Rockies lineup is also pretty bad. So I think Cole Reagans could still have a pretty fine start there. Framber Valdez got knocked around at the Mets, 4 2/3, 6 runs allowed. He has allowed 5+ earned runs in 4 of 14 starts. So he's had more of these blow up starts this year. He's at the Blue Jays this week, which is a pretty good matchup. They're not good against lefties. Chris, is it just similar analysis for Kevin Gausman for Framber Valdez?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Framber Valdez, I have more faith in him being what he once was than Gausman, just because Gausman was starting from a much higher place. So he's got further to fall. But yeah, I think that's probably, Framber is, I think I probably need to move him down into like the 40-ish range at starting pitcher to reflect that. Just while I think he's okay, he's not a star anymore, I don't think.
Well, Gausman, we've seen like skill decline from Gausman, right? Like the velocity has been down quite a bit this year. I can't confirm how much exactly because his pitch tracking information isn't loading for me. But it's been down. While that hasn't been an issue for Valdez.
It's the quality of contact. He's getting hit really hard.
Four of the starts prior to this one for Valdez were great. So I felt like he was trending up, and I'm not inclined to reverse my thinking on him because this start went badly against a Mets offense that's been on fire.
Yes, they certainly are. Speaking of on fire hitters who had massive Junes, and Aaron Judge just wrapped up another insane month where he hit 409 with 11 homers and a 1378 OPS. He is at 31 homers through 84 games. Back in 2022, when he hit 62 homers, he had 30 homers in his first 84 games. So he is actually pacing ahead of when he had the 62 homer season just a couple of years ago. A couple other names with that had big Junes: Jose Altuve, Jackson Merrill, Jackson Churio, Anthony Santander, Jarren Duran, and Brandon Nimmo. Anyone stand out? Anything you'd like to add? Lots of names.
This is just the tip of the iceberg, really. But Nimmo, we've been waiting for him to catch up to his StatCast numbers for a long time. He's still not all the way there, as hot as he's been lately. But I can't say I'm terribly surprised by the way this has gone. We've talked about Santander and Jarren Duran a lot, and Jackson Chorio and Jackson Merrill. We've talked about them all a lot. So I'm not sure there's much to add.
I just can't wait for everyone to start pretending we care about the American League home run record again. That's going to be fun.
Judge might become the third player ever with multiple 60 homer seasons. And maybe he'll even become third. I forgot McGuire did it. The year
McGuire
after
did
he
it
hit
twice?
70, he hit 65.
Oh.
Yep. The quietest 65 homer
Yeah, I
season
guess.
in history. Yeah. Maybe this one will actually get to the Hall of Fame. Who knows?
Some pitching standouts from the weekend and the first group. Oh, lots of great pitching up top here. Christopher Sanchez tossed the first complete game, the first shutout of his career up against the Marlins. He only allowed 3 hits with 9 strikeouts. He had 16 whiffs on 101 pitches. Taj Bradley was awesome against the Nationals. 5 2/3 shutout, 11 strikeouts. He had 20 whiffs on 99 pitches. We spoke about Zac Gallen earlier. And Garrett Crochet was great again. What else is new? Up against the Rockies, 7 innings, 2 runs, 11 strikeouts. He had 24 whiffs on 88 pitches. Last 12 starts, a 1.63 ERA, a .82 whip. Chris, anything to add on Crochet, Taj, and Sanchez?
Yeah, the one thing I want to add about Taj Bradley, who obviously has been really, really good. He's basically given up on the curveball. He's thrown 5 of them over his past 2 starts. He's basically just going fastball splitter. It's like 85 to 90% of his pitches. It's working really, really well. There are some warning signs here that he's not totally fixed despite the very, very good production. Specifically, he had a 4.16 expected WOBA with his 4-seamer in the month of June and just like a 20% whiff rate, which is pretty average for a 4-seamer. So he's showing top 20 upside for sure. There are still reasons to believe that I don't know if it's fair to say a classic Taj Bradley blow up, but I'll say a classic Taj Bradley blow up it's not off the table despite the very good results that he's gotten since switching to this splitter heavy approach. That being said, obviously must roster, which he is across the board now, and I wouldn't sit him at this point.
No. Again, that is Taj Bradley. He was awesome.
Can I mention something for Christopher Sanchez here? I probably pointed this out to some degree or another a lot lately, but his velocity was again up from the season average, which was already up from last year's average. And yet now the walks that accompanied that increased velocity, it's all gone away. His last His last 8 starts, he has a total of 6 walks. So he's back to being elite control guy like he was last year, in addition to the elite ground ball rate. And he just looks really, really good right now. I hope you stuck with him. I know there was some talk when he was struggling that maybe he's not worth rostering. Obviously, we're well past that now, but I hope you stuck with him because he looks great.
Again, that is Christopher Sanchez. Pitching standouts part 2. Seth Lugo up against the Guardians. Another great start. 6 shutout innings. He had 10 strikeouts. He has 8+ strikeouts in 3 straight. Zach Eflin turned in his first scoreless outing since April 20th up against the Nationals. 6 shutout with 6 strikeouts. Bailey Ober was great again, this time at the Mariners. 6 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts. Worth noting, last 3 starts, he got Oakland twice in the Mariners. So some really good matchups in there, but he is taking advantage. And Logan Webb pitched well up against the Dodgers. 7 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts in that one. Anything stand out here, Scott? Webb, Bailey Ober, Eflin, and Seth Lugo.
If I could jump back to the previous group for a second, Garrett Crochet, I love how the very first start after they say they're going to pull back on the innings, he goes 7 innings.
Right.
Yeah, but only 88 pitches.
Right.
That's what we talked about when they announced this, was like, there are going to be games where he probably could have gone 8 in this one. He's just going to go an inning less than he probably could.
Well, because they're doing it more in terms of pitch count than innings count, I don't think we're going to notice that much. I'm hopeful.
I mean,
anyway.
he's not going to be a 2 ERA pitcher moving forward, probably, unless he's just the best pitcher in baseball now.
I mean, you could more reasonably expect that for him than most pitchers, but probably not. Yes.
So there will be some regression in the quality, which will lead to regression in the number of innings. I think I would still I would bet he throws fewer than 6 innings more often than not the rest of the way.
I think Garrett Crochet has been this year's most discussed player on this podcast.
For good reason.
Yes, rightfully so. Was there anything you wanted to add on Lugo, Eflin, Ober, and Webb?
Not really.
Can I?
If he wants to.
Yeah, Eflin. He, for the first time all season, I believe, threw his curveball as his primary pitch, which that was his second most used pitch last year. He threw it 26% of the time. This year had been about 18% usage. And lo and behold, he had a really good start because his curveball's been really good. We've been wondering why that change happened. I think part of it was just he wasn't getting into as many 2-strike counts because the curveball clearly his most used pitch in 2-strike situations. So I think it's just overall he has to pitch better to put himself into situations where he can use his best pitch more. But that was promising. And then Ober, rest of the arsenal has been really good. The fastball has been really bad this season, but he had a 400+ ex-WOBA on the fastball in both April and May. It was 357 in June. That'll play. That it's not great, but if everything else is working and the fastball is just not terrible, which was the problem in the first 2 months, I think Bailey Ober can be a very useful pitcher.
Pitching standouts part 3. Chris Bassett turned in another quality start. 6 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts against the Yankees. Michael King was great at the Red Sox. 6 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts there. Jake Irvin, another strong start at the Rays. 6 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts for him. And Paul Skeens has turned in a quality start in 7 of his first 9 starts. And he went 6 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts, 13 whiffs on 102 pitches. Anything on Skeens, Irvin, Michael King, and Chris Bassett?
Skeens clearly wasn't at his best in this start. He only got 1 whiff with the splinker, which has been his best pitch. And his main pitches, his top 3 pitches were all down 1.2 miles per hour. And it didn't matter. Obviously, he was still dominant against the Braves lineup. And he's a top 12 pitcher rest of season.
Mm-hmm. Again, that is Paul Skeens. And pitching standouts part 4. Pablo Lopez.
Can I just... Michael King. I was totally willing to drop him at the end of April. And he has a 2.83 ERA with 75 strikeouts and 63 and 2/3 innings since the start of May. I'm sorry. I apologize if you dropped him based on my advice. That was a whoopsie daisy on my part.
Yeah, he's been much better. Again, that was Michael King. And this last group, pitching standouts, par 4, Pablo Lopez, great again, up against the Mariners, 6 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts, 18 whiffs on 94 pitches. Again, really good matchups the last two against the Oakland and the Mariners. Freddie Peralta was great against the Cubs, 7 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. Joe Ryan racked up the whiffs at the Mariners. You could have guessed it. 5 2/3, 2 runs, 10 strikeouts in that one. Anything to add on Joe Ryan, Peralta, and Pablo Lopez?
Everything was up for Pablo Lopez, mile per hour. Strong follow-up to that 14 strikeout effort at the A's. Two good matchups in a row, A's and Mariners. But, hopefully.
We're done.
Hopefully.
We're done worrying about Pablo Lopez.
Yes, for those who ever were, which were many. But hopefully they're done. I can't speak for them, but hopefully they're done.
I lied. There are 2 other pitchers I wanted to quickly mention. I don't think we're overly worried. I think these are just kind of like outlier bad starts for each of them. But Ranger Suarez had his worst start of the season against the Marlins of all teams. So just kind of frustrating. But 4 2/3 innings, 6 runs allowed in that one. And Tanner Houck, as soon as I move him way up the rankings, he has his worst start of the season up against the Padres, 4 1/3 innings, 8 runs, 7 of those earned. Entering this start, he had allowed 2 home runs all season. He gave up 3 homers in this start alone. Anything worrisome on Ranger Suarez or Tanner Houck?
It's kind of the same situation for both. They had pitched with a sub-2 ERA for most of the year. And while I think they're good pitchers, they're not nearly that good. And they were probably due for something like this. But no, I wouldn't say I'm panicking about either.
Some hitting leftovers. Gleyber Torres has responded well to his benching earlier in the week. He had 6 hits this weekend, including a home run on Friday. Chris, you woke up Vinny Pasquantino, so thank you for that.
You're welcome, everyone.
Big weekend for Vinny P. 7 hits, 2 homers, 4 runs, 5 RBI. Big weekend for Matt Chapman. 1 for 4 with a sock and a shoe on Friday. He added 3 hits on Saturday, added another homer on Sunday. Adolis Garcia might be picking things back up last 7 games, batting .286 with 3 homers. And Randy Arozarena might be picking things up as well. Last 13 games, batting .311 with 3 homers and 3 steals. Anything stand out here? Or do we keep moving?
Just more signs of long struggling hitters coming around in June.
Yep, for sure. Some bullpen updates for the White Sox on Friday. Michael Kopech got the 9th with a 2-run lead. He walked 1, but picked up his 7th save. For the Cubs on Saturday, Hector Neris got the 9th with a 2-run lead. He gave up a hit and a walk, but struck out 2 for his 11th save. For the Tigers on Saturday, Jason Foley got the 9th inning with the game tied. He retired the top of the Angels lineup in order. He came out for the bottom of the 10th. He gave up a walk-off single to Kevin Pillar. For the Pirates on Sunday, Aroldis Chapman got the 9th inning with a 3-run lead. He gave up 1 run, but picked up his 3rd save. He's 32% rostered. So if you are looking for saves in the short term, I think Chapman is a fine option. For the Phillies on Sunday, Jose Alvarado was unavailable. It was Jeff Hoffman who got the 9th. He struck out 1 for his 6th save. And shout out to Ryan Helsley, man. Became the first of 30 saves on June 30th. So
that's wild.
I don't think he's going to get to 60 saves, but it's not impossible. At least that's the way he's pacing right now. So just a ridiculous season for Ryan Helsley. Anything else? These other bullpens?
It's been a really quiet year for bullpens, I have to say. It's been hard for me to write the bullpen report.
Especially like the last month and a half. Like we had a decent amount of shuffling early on, but there's just been like nothing outside of a few injuries the past like month. Like, okay, the Rockies, but who cares, you know?
Yeah. I don't think we want Jalen Beeks on any.
Yeah, like you don't need to care about it, so it's fine.
Right. To stream or not to stream, I did not write down any names, so I'm just gonna. I don't know.
Could you have written down any for Monday?
Not really, but
there's 3 games for those who are unfamiliar. I guess David Peterson is the best choice among those who might be available. He's at Washington. I believe they have the 3rd worst OPS against lefties.
So I saw Mackenzie Gore was dropped in a few of my leagues. So now he's still 90% rostered. He doesn't count. He may after today. People might be dropping him.
He's a 2-star pitcher with great matchups. So it's a weird time to drop Mackenzie Gore.
I agree.
Yariel Rodriguez is facing the Astros, but I don't think we want to do that. So David Peterson, that's the only one we might want to go with on Monday. And then on Tuesday, is there anyone? Carlos Carrasco against the White Sox. I mean, it's the White Sox, but it's Carlos Carrasco, so I don't know about that.
Does Kyle Gibson make the cut?
Yeah, Kyle Gibson against the Pirates is decent.
I think that's fine. I think he makes the cut. Sean Manaea at the Nationals.
Yeah, again, bad against lefties, that lineup, so it might work out okay.
I could see a decent Simeon Woods Richardson start against the Tigers. Zach Littell at Kansas City, I could see being okay.
Yep. Jose Soriano
yeah,
from the IL at Oakland. A little nervous coming back from the IL, but he was going well before that. In fact, he had like an 8-inning gem his final start, didn't he? And that's a good matchup, obviously. So probably prefer him to like the Sean Manaea class of streamers. And I guess that about covers it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We are going to wrap there for Scott and Chris. I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.